All right, well, welcome everyone to a closer look at Repository and Explorer. Max, if you want to jump to the next slide, we'll just jump right into the agenda. All right, so today's agenda, first Max Gallagher is going to take us through a demo of Title Repository, focusing on some of the recent enhancements and key features. From there, we'll pass it over to John Lewis, who's going to walk us through managing SLAs with critical path analysis using Title Explorer. At that point, Tom O'Rourke, or if Tom's not able to join us, he's been having some issues here with WebEx, he or I will provide an update on the Title SAS solution. I'll give a quick update on some news and events, and then we'll leave some time for Q&A at the end. If you want to jump to the next one. So just a couple pieces of housekeeping. We will be recording the session. It will be posted on the portal next week. All participants are muted, but we encourage you to submit questions to the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of the screen, and we'll get to as many of those as possible at the end of the session. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Max, and Max is going to take a closer look at Repository. Max?
Hey, thanks. My name is Max Gallagher. I'm on the title support team. Probably worked with a lot of you guys. And today I wanted to show a lot of the enhancements that we've been making in the last couple versions, particularly ones that came from everybody. A lot of good feedback from everybody that I've been working with personally and everything. So that's been definitely improving the product. So one of the most requested features is right at the top there, which is resolving conflicts on the fly. So I'm going to show that. The console at the bottom auto refreshes now, so you don't have to press refresh whenever you want to know status of a sync. You can also filter by anything on that screen, and we've had a lot of improvements to the bulk update and different things that I'll show you. So let me back out of the PowerPoint. So I have a repository set up and I have a environment set up here. I have a couple things already prepared, but I think I want to go across the top and explain all the items across the top first, just to give a little context, and then we'll go right into it. So skipping over workspaces briefly, repository is just a collection of objects that could be decided, any sort of category of things, say a backup of your production jobs every hour, or all of your financial jobs, or maybe a repository of just every job that's ready for QA, or maybe every object that was in a particular change request, just held in one spot. Connections are just a connection to Title Automation web clients. So if you have, 9 masters, 9 client managers, you would have 9 connections here. And then mappings is exactly like transporter. When you're moving anything over, if you see agent Y, switch it to agent X. No difference there. And then a pipeline is sort of a workflow between connections and repositories. So if you have, say, a pipeline that's used for promoting jobs from your stage environment to your production, then you would have a pipeline that specifically deals with that process. So for our uses, we have one repository, one connection to a lab, one mapping, and then a pipeline, which looks like this. And I've been here idle too long, so let me log back in. I've typed. Let me use my password manager. There we go. Must have mistyped it. So in the, let me make sure it's all the same. Yeah, demo repo. So this is a repository that I made, has nothing in it. We are going to use pipeline page, which is where most of the work goes. So this is a connection to the SLAB environment. So for instance, this is a view everyone's familiar with. We got a group with 23 or so objects in there. And what we want to do is we want to pull it into a repository. So a couple things on this page that have changed in the most recent version. One thing that I really enjoy is the selected 23. So, if you're only here and you only click, the one checkbox, you still know that you have 23 selected. So that's real nice. So we'll go ahead and pull this whole group in there. And so another thing is this console view down here. It has in progress, so it's a bit quick on us. But if any of these statuses of things that you're doing are in progress or pending in any way or actively calculating, then this screen will automatically refresh until everything is in a finished status. So right now it's not refreshing because there's nothing that it's working on, but while it's working on something, it'll keep refreshing. So we can see in our pipeline page that previously 6511 lab had all of our objects, and now the demo repository also has all of our objects. So what we're going to do is we are going to take all of our objects and we are going to commit them to a version. So say now we have a saved version of all of our objects that we can go back to at any point in time. So if we had a version of this repository from a year ago and someone asked, what do these jobs look like a year ago, we could easily go here, pick version 1, push this back into our environment, and then look at anything we wanted to look at. So that's a very useful feature. And so while we're here, we're going to, a common use case I see is that there will be a connection or a system that's decommissioned, and updating the connections is pretty easy, but a lot of times jobs reference paths to places that no longer exist. So what we can do is we can bulk update. We can check all, which is just an easy way to check every single one, because just for convenience. And then this find replace feature is brand new. So in our situation, we say, there's a lot of parameters with old path to file, and we want to replace it with new path to file. It's a pretty common situation. You don't want to have to, number one, edit, maybe hundreds of jobs and maybe you miss one. Definitely not something you want to put yourself through. So after we've chosen to do that, we got a nice screen that's a confirmation screen. So nothing's actually happened yet. We can, make a decision. If we anticipated 100 of them to be changed, then that's good news. If we anticipated only one to be changed and we see 100, then that's bad news, and we probably made a mistake and we need to go back. And to be clear, this is only editing all of the jobs that are inside the repository. Nothing is being touched in TA at the moment. So we'll hit confirm. And then what we can do, which I think is quite useful, is we can name this another version. Hit accept. And now we have a couple different things. We have latest, which is always the most current version of everything. We have a version 2 that has the new path in it. And we have version 1 with the old path. So if we had, say we made a mistake with the path and all the jobs started failing, we could easily go back to version 1, push everything back to production or whatever system, and then we would immediately be back to, all 100 jobs or however many it was before any change was made. And we know for certain that it's all going to work because it worked for a year or whatever it was. So it was version 2. To show off one of the features, I made a mapping that's intentionally wrong. So let me just show that I don't have any tricks up my sleeve here. So for my runtime user, I've decided for this mapping, whenever you see the administrator runtime user switch it to does not exist, which does not exist, there's no such thing as this, But to show probably the biggest feature, that my favorite feature that we've added, I'm going to force it to fail so that we can show it. So we have we've pulled everything in. So now our task is to push everything in. So we made our change, our bulk edit to all of our jobs. And so if we push and we overwrite what we already have, then we will have our change made. So we're going to select all. It's all 23, which is the exact number we saw earlier. So, you know, it would be astute of us to go through and make sure everything, but we know for sure that, you know, we pulled 23. We're pushing 23. That seems sound. The annotate field here, we can put anything. So this is new. So say you had change request 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then all the note fields would be updated with that change request, just like the note fields are updated with who did this push. So my name would be attached to this push. This text would be attached to this push. Whatever you want to put in here. A lot of people do different things, but most commonly I see a change request put in that note field. We're going to use our mapping, which intentionally has a mistake. So hit sync here. So you see it's a bit small, but it says in progress here. This console will auto refresh on its own. I believe it's 5 seconds. So now it says awaiting action. This is new, and this is the feature that I'm most excited about. So we have a couple of decisions. We have a decision here. We could see the details of the awaiting action. You know, maybe we weren't anticipating it. We could, you know, save it for to see closer. And now we have resolve, which is going to be a way, just like transporter can resolve something in the middle of a sync and then resume. Abort does like you think, you know, if you think there's a mistake, or, you know, like in my case, my mapping was wrong, so I would probably, normal situation, do an abort and then fix my mapping. But that's intentional right now. So I'm going to click on resolve, and then for this one, there's only one entry. But say, you know, you had a mistake with dependencies or variables or something, you would get every single one of those right here, and you would be able to answer the questions immediately. So for our system, we're just going to do the simple thing, which is change it from administrator to administrator, because that is a user that exists. So hit accept, and now at the bottom, we got in progress. Every 5 seconds, it will refresh for us. We'll just wait for that. Yeah, there you go. So now we see all of our jobs that we updated. Let me just refresh this view here. You know, went from old path to file to new path to file. And, you know, it took us all of, 5 minutes. So let's see. Now, while we're here, I wanted to show a situation that I've witnessed quite a few times, because it's a very easy mistake to make, and that is deleting a giant group. A giant essential production group has been deleted by accident. So completely gone. In this situation, without title repository, you could go to the backend database, mark every dirty job as undirty, but you would still have to fix all the dependencies, fix every event, and fix every resource. And dependencies in particular, done manually, require historical knowledge of how the job worked. Very often, users have to completely restore their backend database back to a previous backup, which can have its own amount of impact depending on the situation. But with repository, not only do we have the ability to restore it back, we have the ability to restore it back to version 2, which has all the new paths in our situation. We have version 1 that's, you know, hypothetically from a year ago. We have latest, which is always just the latest version of everything. So with that capability, so just to show everything is still checked, because this screen didn't change too much. So I've just checked 6511 lab, and we're still in push mode, which means we're going to overwrite what's there. So we hit sync, wait a few seconds. Waiting action, because our mapping file is Incorrect. Now it's going to resume wherever it left off. And then successful. So we go back to here, hit refresh, and we've got everything back. And one important decision to make if that were a live situation is that you would want to really be sure whether you were, so I clicked configure here, you would really want to be sure that you had an intelligent choice for this compile option. If I checked compile here, then it would have rescheduled all of those jobs. And so that might be something you really, really want. Or it might be something that you want to handle with your users manually, depending on impact. And if people were running their jobs manually in the remote systems, you wouldn't want to run everything again from title. So I just thought I'd point that out for that hypothetical. So one thing I quickly wanted to show is that this filter now matches our filter here. So this filter, can filter by command, agent, anything. We can now do the exact same thing in the pipeline view. So what I want to show is particularly tags, fairly new feature, although it's been around now. So you can imagine that you have, a user that wants to have, they've been working on their jobs and they've gotten them perfect in QA and everything is green and working and everything's successful. So they want to promote those sets of jobs to production, and they want an easy way to sort of clearly denote which ones are ready for production and which ones should be moved. So what you can do is you can, shift or control click, hit edit business view tags. We're just going to use test. So we've basically mass edited every single object that I have highlighted to be part of the test business view. So you can imagine naming it, like ready for production. If that was the name of your tag, that would be a pretty clear way to say that. So now we're going to go here, and we're going to filter by test, hit accept, and I think I have another filter on. Did I click these? Yeah, I must be doing something wrong because I did this like 5 minutes ago. But the jobs that will show up are, yeah, I must be doing something wrong. I literally did it right before. But you can imagine, you would move these to prod.
You're doing a push, you need to do a pull.
Oh, that's what it is. I knew it. So pull, yeah, because push would not show up because the versions of all those jobs in the repository do not have that tag. So actually that was correct in what it was showing me. Thanks, Ken. Yeah, exactly. So we have demo root group, we have 0, 1, level 1, all those guys. Just to count them, we have selected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 over here. Oh, I unhighlighted. Yeah, it was about 7. So you can mark your jobs as ready for production, pull them, do whatever you need to do, push them, and then you've got everything in prod now. The easy way to communicate between teams. Okay, so let's see. I believe that's it for me. Next up, we're going to have John Lewis show the Title Explorer, particularly critical path, which I think is a really exciting feature that you can use to allocate, where you want to put your resources. So I'll hand it over to him.
Thank you, Max. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yep, great. Okay, so yeah, my name is John Lewis. I'm the principal developer for Title Explorer. And today I want to show a scenario where Explorer can be used to, at a high level, identify and report your SLAs, but then how you can use Explorer to go further and deeper to help you understand why a specific job breached, and then even to help guide your decision making about how you're going to resolve that future breach. And the main focus of this demo will be on the new Explorer critical path analysis tool, which is new in 3.13. So I'll walk through a simple example of critical path analysis to show the concepts, and we'll end with a demo. So this is a scenario. We have a business critical SLA which is being breached. So that's the scenario we have. You may have some initial questions. What SLA is being breached? Why and sorry, when and how often is it being breached? And what jobs are breaching the SLA? So you can get the answers to that question using the Explorer, using Explorer SLA report. So I've got a problem with my, okay. So, and this is an example of the SLA report. So it shows you information about the SLAs, the jobs, the breach windows, and all that sort of thing. So I'll show that later in the demo. But you may want to look deeper than just this very high level view. Oops, sorry. You may want to know, why did a specific job breach? And you can use the Explorer Gantt view to help answer that question. In order to understand that sort of information, you need to be able to understand the graph of connected jobs and dependencies, which all feed in to the breaching job. And that's exactly what the Explorer Gantt view gives you. And beyond that, you've got the question of how can I resolve, how can I improve my schedule to prevent breaches in the future? And that's where the new Explorer, the 3.13 critical path analysis tool comes in, because with that, it allows you to understand all of the chains which feed into that and allow you to sort of make decisions based upon those critical paths. So to move forward, what we'll do is look at a very simple example and walk through some of the concepts. So we've got this case where we've got a job F, which is completing within a reach window. And within the Gantt view, you can see the Gantt jobs A, B feeding into F and C feeding into F. So that's all fairly straightforward in a simple case. But for the purposes of the analysis, we're saying, why did F breach? And so F is the target of our critical path analysis, and it is the final job in effect. So we want to analyze, we want to find out what's the critical path for this final job. So let's look at the first chain feeding into it. So we've got job F has got a chain of dependencies starting at A and then they get F, and we call that chain 1, and it's got 2 links in it, A to B and B to F. And oops, the thing to note about that chain is that the gap between the end of A and the start of B and the end of B and the start of F is very, very small. So in effect, each job becomes ready to run as soon as its dependency is met. Another way of thinking about that is to say any delay to A or B would result in further delay to F, or even there is no slack in chain 1. So let's look at the other chain. So we've got a very simple chain with one link, C to F. And you can see there's a gap between the end of C and the beginning of F. And that's what we call the slack. And the slack is the time between the dependency being met and the dependent job being ready to run. So job C could be delayed by up to the slack time without affecting the actual start time of job F. So for example, if job C ran longer, it's still no impact on F, still no impact on F. So to sort of summarize, final job F has 2 chains in what we call a chain set, chain 1 and chain 2. And the question is, what is the critical path? Okay, the critical path is shown here. And basically, the critical path is the chain which has got the minimum overall slack across all of the linked components. So in this case, we've got A, B, and F are in the critical path chain. And another thing to note about this is that job B contributes the most runtime to your critical path duration. So, that's something to bear in mind. So now we've established a critical path, we can ask the question, well, why is that valuable? How can we use this information to guide our efforts to reduce our schedule duration and prevent future breaches? Well, the first thing we could do is we've got this run longing job B on the critical path chain. We could elect to shorten its runtime, and we could do that by redesigning it using a faster algorithm, or maybe elect to run it on a bigger or faster server. And you end up in this scenario where F is no longer breaching, which is good. And we've still got the same structure, but basically we've resolved the issue. Beyond that sort of change, you've got the option to, if possible, restructure your schedule. So in this case, for example, we could identify that maybe B isn't actually dependent on A. So we could remove, in that case, the dependency of B on A. And that would sort of give us another option to parallelize the running of A and B. And with that change, you've got 3 chains now. You've got A to F, B to F, which is now the critical path chain, and C to F. You also have the option to combine options 1 and 2 to shorten B and parallelize A and B. And now you get a different setup, effectively, where you've got a different critical path chain. It's now C to F. And in that case, any further improvement work would really want to focus on C, because that's any work on A and B would be wasted at that point. So that's a very simple, I just try to get the concepts across of critical path to you in this case. So in terms of why is critical path important? Well, it's important because your schedule can't run faster than your critical path duration. But the good news is you can make changes to reduce the critical path duration. As well, in effect, the critical path the chain includes, it's the most important elements that define the minimum processing time for your schedule. So if your business users want their overall schedule durations to be reduced, then you've got some different options. You've got the option to shorten wait times and run times for jobs that contribute the most time to the critical path. And you can do that by improving your job implementation or using better algorithms. You can run on faster or larger servers. And if you've got a job which is actually waiting on resources before it can run, then you've also got the option of adding resources to your system if it's resource bound. Over and above the basic idea of shortening a specific job, you've also got the option of schedule restructuring to remove redundant dependencies, parallelizing jobs where possible, or even removing unnecessary jobs if they can be identified. Okay, so let me go to a demo. So I've got a slight problem with my Okay, so this is Explorer, and we're going to run through a scenario similar to what I've just walked through. So we've got a known issue, we've got an SLA which is breaching, and so we want to find out and do some investigation. So I'll run tools, SLA analysis, and I know that it's something to do with month-end reports. So I'll connect to my database, pick the dates of interest. And I'm interested in my month-end SLAs. I'm not interested in some of the other ones, so I will discard them. And I will apply that. So this is our SLA port for those month-end SLAs, and the top level grid is a summary. You can see that we've got 2 financial month-end policy rules which have run successfully, no issues there. But the top level, the top one, is has run 10 times. The rule is a financial regulatory month-end policy, run 10 times, it's breached 10 times, and the offending job is 02 publish finance reports. So we've got issues there. And when I've got that selected, I can see in the view below the run times for that job relative to the breach window. So you can see the start and the end of the jobs in blue, and the breach window is indicated by the red bars. So the jobs are actually running inside the breach window. Okay, so we have a grid below which effectively gives you more detailed information for each job run. So we've identified the jobs of interest, the breach of interest. So now we want to delve a bit deeper, and we want to identify what's happening in this job, how is it structured, why is it running into the breach window. So in order to do that, I need to understand its the jobs that feed into it. In order to get that, I'll run one of the jobs. I won't run the job. I will examine the job run information using the job run Gantt and trace analysis tool. Okay, let me just clean this up a little bit. Okay, so this is a job of interest, 02 publish finance reports. The orange area at the right-hand side of the Gantt view is the breach window, so you can see it's actually inside the breach window. And you can see that that job lies at the end of a workload, which is a sort of data warehouse month-end workload. So the next question is, well, what could I do what would I want to maybe try to improve the performance? In order to do that, you need to work out what my critical path is. So in order to do that, I can select the job of interest and run CPA, which is critical path analysis. And right away, you get a list of jobs shown in red, and that list of jobs constitute the chain, which is the most critical in the system from that publish finance reports job. That's fine. You've also got the option to remove some of the context, the non-critical information from the view, so you can switch critical path filtering on and off to see context or just on its own. But there's a lot more information available. So obviously there's more than one chain in this view. So what I can do is I can view the critical path results in more detail. And that's what we've got here. So in fact, what we found was in this top grid shows information about each of the chains which has been discovered by the critical path analysis. And in this case, they're set out in rank order. So the rank 1 chain is the chain with the minimum aggregate SLAC, which is the critical path chain in the system. And in order of criticalness, if you like, the rank 2 chain has got 7 minutes of SLAC, then 8 minutes of SLAC, and 9 minutes of SLAC. So you can see how you're effectively comparing and contrasting the different chains that are feeding into that published finance reports job. In addition to that, you've got, as well as the grid, you've got that information displayed on the bottom left-hand side, sorry, for the aggregate SLAC weight and runtime per chain. So for the rank 1 chain is shown here, and you can see that it's got no SLAC in it. There's no yellow in that in the first top level chain, and then as the chains increase, or increase in rank, they become less critical, and you can see the slack increasing in each chain as we go forward. You've also got the option to view different chains. So I can, this checkbox on a given row displays the critical path for that. So I can select the least critical job, sorry, the least critical path chain, and display that. And you can show that with the context. And yeah, so you can see we've got more gaps in this because there's a slack in this specific chain. Okay, so once we've discovered our critical chain, we've identified our most critical chain, we then want to, well, let's display it. Okay, let's display it. So we've identified 8 chains, we've found the most critical chain, and we can see in this bottom right-hand side the jobs which contribute the most time to that specific chain. So this is equivalent of the job B in the previous simple example. So the rank 1 job in this chain is, it's 03 load finfax, runs for 10 minutes. And the next one is 04 load staging data from ODS. So these are ranked in terms of the time that they contribute to that critical chain. So these would be the obvious targets initially for potential optimization if you want to sort of speed up this system. In addition, you've got a report which allows you to view details for any of the chains. By default, it shows the rank 1 chain, and you get various information about it. You get the chain summary information, which is similar to what you get in the grid, like aggregate information about number of links, etc. And you also get a breakdown of all of the links that make up that chain that's displayed above. So starting from the 02 published finance reports to 01 finance reports, and then through the different groups and tracing back through the system to show all of the links which make up that critical chain. And you also get the slack associated with each link, or for each relationship in effect. Beyond that, you have ranked job time contributions listed in ranked order. So you can see the top 3 jobs which contribute the most time to this critical chain are those load 3 finfax contributing 10 minutes, 9 minutes, 6 minutes, etc. of time to that chain. Again, targets for optimization. And so the other thing, you've got the option of getting that report for any of the chains. So I can update for rank 4. I've got the same information for rank 4. I can print the information, and I can export all of the information shown here to Excel as well. So hopefully you can see that from a basic starting point of high-level view of SLAs, identification of the breaching jobs, the ability to understand all of the data, all the jobs and schedule which is feeding into that job, that breaching job, and then having deep analytics which allow you to understand all of the things which contribute to the critical path of that chain, really can help you to decide how you would like to approach the work to improve this situation. Okay, so I will bring up my presentation again. Okay, so Explorer 313 has got the new critical path tool in it, and we're very pleased about that. And it's something which a lot of Explorer clients have asked for a long time. So we're really pleased it actually made it into the product now. And critical path analysis is a very powerful tool because basically what it allows you to do is to very easily identify and contrast your critical path chains in your complex schedules. Explorer can handle thousands of chains, not the simple ones you're seeing here. And when you get that level of complexity, it's the only way you can approach this sort of thing. Once you've got the critical path chain information, then it makes it easy to identify the jobs which contribute the most time to your chain, and then they can immediately become targets for wait time or runtime shortening. I think the fundamental benefit of critical path analysis is it really helps you to make good decisions when you're planning or thinking about or considering options for schedule improvement work. If you're guided by the critical path, then it allows you to focus your efforts where it makes the most difference and prevent you from actually doing work in areas that actually aren't going to make a difference at all. So thanks for that. Look forward to your feedback. And with that, I'll hand over to Rick.
Excellent. Thank you, John, and thank you, Max, as well, both for presenting today, putting together the presentations, et cetera. For all of you out there, if you'd like more information, you can reach out to your account manager. We can get demos set up, more individual information, et cetera, for you, one-on-one sessions, et cetera, if need be. Whoops. Sorry, that's not where I wanted to be. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tom to talk about the SAS update. Tom?
Great, thanks, Rick. So I just want to take a moment to update everyone on where we are with SAS. Rick, we can go to the next slide. Or if we already are, okay, great. So just to let everyone know, we've been talking about this year. We're moving forward. We're now at the point that we'd like to give you the opportunity to go and try out Tidal SAS. We are going to set up Tidal SAS instances using the latest release 6.5.11. It'll be connected into our integration lab, and all you're going to need is a browser. Now, the integration lab doesn't have the full complement of adapters available yet. It has a subset of them, but I think there's enough there for if you're interested in this to go and give everything a good try. And so if you are interested, then reach out to your account manager for more details or in order to be able to get a test account. With that, Rick, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom. All right, so just a few minutes here on some news and events. We are back out and about. We're going to be at a couple upcoming conferences with Tidal booths. So in a few weeks, we're going to be at Oracle Cloud World. That's October 17th to 20th. And then in December, we're going to be at Gartner's IT Infrastructure Operations and Cloud Strategies Conference. That one's December 6th through 8th. Both of those events are going to be in Las Vegas. So please let us know if you're going to be attending either event. Either reach out to your account manager. You can reach out to me directly. If you are attending, we'd love to meet up with you, grab a drink. Sometimes we do breakfast with customers at these events, et cetera. So if you're going to be there, let us know. We look forward to seeing you. We are thrilled to have Leanne McLennan joining us for our next ASUG webinar. So ASUG, the America's SAP User Group, hosts regular webinars. We are going to have one on Thursday, November 17th, where Leanne's going to talk about how they use Tidal to automate SAP at Columbia Sportswear. So if you're interested in attending that event, we'll be posting more information on our portal and on the website. We'll put something out on LinkedIn about it. Or you can just, once again, reach out to your account manager. And when we have the information where you can go register, we'll make that available to you. So thank you once again to Leanne. We are really excited about this event. So thank you. We've got some new content that we just put out on our portal and website. I think it hit the website this morning under the resource library. This document highlights our coverage for cloud computing, cloud storage, and cloud analytics. So across all the various cloud providers, and the major ones anyway. So we've got a number of integrations that are currently available and a number that are currently under development. So go out there, take a look at that document, see how Tidal can fit into your cloud environment. And if there's any specifics that you want to take a closer look at, you want to get a license key for, you want to get a demo, reach out to your account manager and they can help you with that. Our sales engineers continue to build out our library of brief demo videos. It's something we've been doing quite a bit this year. There's a couple of new ones that just came out within the last week or so. They're available on our website as well. So if you're looking for a more basic overview of repository, you can check out the intro video that Alistair Davidson did out there. And if you have an Azure environment or are considering having an Azure environment and you'd like to learn more about our capabilities with Azure Data Factory, which is a new adapter for us, just came out here fairly recently. There's a demo out there by Eric Smith that you can view as well. So we're continuing to develop more of these. We've got several ongoing right now, but we'd like to hear from you guys as well. So if you've got ideas for additional videos, other things that you'd like to see, certainly feel free to reach out to us, let us know, and we'll try to get it in the queue. And then lastly, our next webinar is scheduled for Thursday, December 1st. It's going to be an overview of our 2022 fall launch. And so, just a heads up for everyone to save the date for that upcoming event. And with that, I'm going to turn it over, or I won't turn it over, but we'll move to Q&A. And I know there are a lot of questions here. So let me get to where I can see them. Stacy, I don't know if you can see them. I'm having an issue here real quick, so I don't know if you can maybe jump in and start that up.
Sure, I can see him, Rick.
Oh, there we go. I just got it myself. So.
You got him? Okay.
I do. There's a lot. Let's see. Let's just start at the top. So we may, I don't know how many we'll be able to get to, but we get a little bit of time here. So, all right. Can the versioning number and name be automatic like in all repository systems? Remember, the first ones are all going to be repository here. So I don't know if we've got Max and Ken.
Yeah, I can help. Yeah.
Okay.
Not yet. That one, I believe, is an enhancement request that's been moving along internally, so that'll exist at some point. I think they're still discussing, design decisions and such. So, but yeah, I think that would be a great idea. I can go down the list if you want me to.
Yeah, I'll read them out to you. Just how long will versions be retained?
That one is forever. You can delete them manually, but right now there's no expiration or automatic purging. It's up to you to get rid of them.
Okay. When you were reviewing the error, somebody want to say something there?
Sorry. Yeah, right. Sorry. This is Ken. I just wanted to interject real quick. So we have had a number of customers that have asked for to have like a purge system set up for the repository, kind of like what we do on title automation. So that feature is coming. We've actually had the dev team QA a couple of things, so you will be able to go in and configure each repository that you have in TR set up and configured with its own purge time. So you could say in one, I want to purge it after 5 days, and another one, want to purge it after a year or whatever. So that feature is coming. And again, as y'all use the product, let us know of any features that you would like added, because we're trying to build this up from y'all's point of view. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Rick.
Perfect. Thank you. Max, when you were reviewing the error, it didn't look like it said what the error was. We knew what it was because we knew the user did not exist, but I didn't know if it said what it was. Did it?
So on that page, it'll only list conflicts. So any line on that page would be indicative of a problem, like guaranteed. In our example, it was very obvious that the user doesn't exist. But in a more realistic situation, say you were moving something with a QA agent into your production agent. Depending on how your agents are named, familiarity with it. If we ran into a problem and you see that it's looking for a QA agent, you'd probably think, oh, there is no QA agent. But basically, every entry in there is something that's missing. So, if you saw 7 of them, they would all appear as if things that were mistakes in mapping usually.
Okay. In repository, can you have multiple logins versus transporter where you can only have one?
Yep. So repository is like a web client, like TA has. As many people as want to use the product can use it, and they can all use it at the same time. So it's a lot better than transporter in that aspect, where transporter, a lot of times I would see people share the same VM and take turns and stuff, but in a repository, everyone can use it at once. And, if someone's doing a huge task, maybe you have to wait for that one to finish before yours goes. But everyone can log in there at the same time. There's no conflicts of data because it's all single threaded. So say 4 people pulled the same information into the same repository at the same time. Whoever clicked on it first would get served first, and then second, third, fourth. So that's how that worked.
Okay. Do we have any performance comparisons of repository compared to transporter, say moving 1,000 jobs or so from master A to B, something like that?
So there's a lot of factors involved in any given metric of performance, but the numbers that I witnessed from repository, there is not enough resources on the planet to make transporter go that fast. So I guess that little anecdote there, but I've seen thousands of jobs in minutes, and it's much more, the screen is much more responsive because it utilizes paging. So whereas in transporter, you're going to have to pull in your whole environment and then scroll around. In repository, you're only pulling in a page at a time, just like the web client. And so it's a lot more efficient that way.
Perfect, thank you. When you first implement repository, can you make a first version of all jobs in their current state before any deployments from repository are initiated?
Let's see. Yeah, so you could, what I see a lot of people do is the first thing they want to do is pull in every single job that they own into one repository just so that they have, initial version of everything, no matter what it is. And yeah, you can absolutely do that. You could, there's a check all button in the pipeline view, and you could pull all 100,000 of your jobs in there. And the nice thing about the pull is that there's pretty much no conflict that could happen because at that point, the repository is a blank sheet of paper, so there's really nothing that could be in your way. So yeah, it's a pretty quick process.
So there's a couple questions about pull. When you mentioned pull, it comes from where?
So the pull and push perspective is always from the TR perspective. So any pulling would come towards TR, away from any title instance. And then pushing would be away from TR, which would be overwriting prod, which would be overwriting stage, overwriting real jobs in real places. That's how I think about it.
Perfect, thank you. Can you segregate user access to be only QA to repository or repository to production, something like that?
Yeah, so when defining a pipeline, so there's 2 places. You can allow a user to only be able to pull things. So you can imagine somebody's job is to make backups of important things and set up automation, that sort of thing, and not actually overwrite anything in a live environment. You could set that user to only be able to pull things, and you could also set that user to only be able to pull particular pipelines. But on the pipeline level too, you can lock it to a pull or push, so you could define a pipeline that can only pull things and then give somebody access to that. So there's a couple options. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. What's the difference between business activity and filter tags?
So business activity has a couple features in the UI of the web client where you can, make graphs and make charts and make, special visual aids to what you're doing. And a filter tag is simply just a way to filter, like in the job definition or whatever. In my experience, the business activity tags can do what filter tags can do. So I only use filter tags whenever I know something is not part of, I specifically don't want whatever I'm tagging to be part of a business activity view. So that's the difference.
Okay, thank you. A follow-up on tags. Is there a quick way to remove a large number of tags when they're done with them?
Yeah, so like how I control clicked to select a bunch at once. If I had, say, 1,000 of them that were marked that I wanted to unmark, I could filter the web client by that tag so that the only things that I'm seeing are jobs that are tagged. And then I could shift click and untag. I think it's 150 at a time, however many the paging in the web client does. I think it's 150. You could uncheck 150 at one time.
Okay, a couple more for you here. Repository feature to roll back to a known good version of jobs. Did you specify only certain jobs that you'd like to roll back?
So if you had a task where, say you had a group of 100 objects and you wanted the first 50 to be version 1 and the second 50 to be version 2, what you would do is you would push version 1 and then you would push version 2 in 2 separate pushes. So the version of each repository is a snapshot of every object at that point in time. It's not, the versions are not particular to each object, so there's no mixing of versions. So you would have 2 separate tasks, and because they're single threaded and they wait for each other, really you could push the first 50 and then immediately push the second 50, and then on the back end they would do that in order, and you would resolve conflicts in order. And so you know, it would be 2 tasks for the user, but really in the productivity sense, it would be just as quick to finish that task, you know, overall.
Okay.
Hey,
Perfect.
Rick,
Now I'm going to jump. What's that?
to add one thing to that, to clarify on one thing that I think was a part of that question. So if you did, say, pull in 100 jobs and you had that 100 jobs as version 1, and then somebody said, hey, I want to restore 5 jobs out of that version 1. I don't want to restore all 100 jobs were in that version 1. You can bring up that version 1 and you can manually select or filters, use the filter to narrow it down, but you can select just the few jobs that you want and push those back over. So you don't have to take an entire version over.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ken.
Mhm.
All right, I've got a few questions for John and Explorer. There may be a couple more repository ones here, but I've got a few Explorer ones now in the mix here. So, John, is critical path based on historical runtimes or current schedule?
So the Explorer critical path is based upon the actual historical runtimes.
Okay.
Yep.
Is the SLA defined as the final job and the analysis is determined based on the successors to the final job?
So in the example which I walked through, the final job was had an SLA associated with it. So critical path. So in this scenario, you can you don't actually have to use SLA or for critical path. You can actually analyze the critical path of any job in the system. It's just we're showing it in the context of an SLA.
Okay. What else do I see here? Do you need SLAs set up or can you work similarly without them?
Yes, you can work similarly without them.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay.
Rick, while you're going through the list, one thing I wanted to let everyone on the webinar know is right now we do not have this, but one item that will be coming in the future here is going to be an adapter for the repository for TR. So as we move down this journey, we know that individuals are going to want to be, we have APIs right now in TR, so you can automate things through APIs, but we know there's those users that would, rather than having to go and learn APIs and do that, would prefer to have the ability to have a job type to be able to automate. So there will be a TR adapter coming.
Okay. Perfect. Well, we have hit the top of the hour. There are a number of questions here that are still unanswered, but we will get answers to them. We'll post them out on the portal. There's a couple questions in here also about whether we recorded the session, and we did, and that will be posted out on the portal as well. So thank you all for attending. Thank you all for the great questions and feedback and everything, and we look forward to hearing from you all soon, and have a great day. We'll talk with you soon.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
John. Thanks, Max. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
Yep.
Stacy, do you have what you need?
Sorry, I'm just doing a quick scan. I